Hello there, how's it there? Ame Gakita. Alright. Let's just say that we just so nice today to be a full moon, which is kind of like a good thing when it comes to tarot card reading, especially in case anyone want to know. It's actually more on like you can't hide your secret along the line. But other than that, actually more towards like the weather in Singapore is very very hot right now. I mean, even I myself was hoping that it will rain, even though the podcast indicated oh it will rain, but anyone who live in Singapore long enough will say that oh when the podcast say it will rain, most of the time it won't rain. So anyway, today is just gonna do a little bit of tarot card reading, but in case anyone want to know, it's actually more on the kind of curious that I really kind of want to know like who want to have their reading along the line, although I can't really be guaranteed what kind of reading it'll be. But other than that, it's actually more towards like if it's a good reading, most of the time I will just say that hey, don't take it for granted. But if it's a bad reading, most of the time it's just a forewarning along the line. But other than that, today I am just kind of like curious anyone want to have their own reading, but at the same time I'm kind of like want to check on my end, like anyone from my side they want their own reading along the line. Much of a but kind of like curious a little bit. It just to showcase it a much easier in case anyone want to know what kind of reading is it, the tarot card reading. Why is it that every time when I'm trying to find the camera I couldn't find it? Oh, it's just right here. Just change that to that, change that to that. And showcase. At the very least, it's like if in the case that anyone want their own reading along the line, they can't be very sure about who want their own reading at this point of time. But other than that, it's actually more on kind of like curious about that. Oh, Venice-san, hello there, how's your day? Yeah, today is a full moon. Because again, just to clarify again, full moon reading is actually more on you can't hide all the stuff along. We have been bothered by ghostly friend. If you want to ask me to can I do a reading on that end, I cannot. Because that is that might end up getting the reading along the line. What they want from you. Okay, the one thing is, right, I can do a bit, but it will be like a bit of waste from that, and that will be something that you might want to be very careful. And you're from Taiwan. Hi, hello. If you're wondering where I'm from, I would just say I'm from Singapore. But if you want to, but most of the time in my live stream I don't speak Chinese. Although I do know a few Chinese only, so don't expect me too much on Chinese word. Other than that, I tend is most of the time I tend to speak in Japanese or in English most of the time. And Parasan, hello da, how should I? You just watch, it's all okay. I mean, I can do a little bit of reading, but don't guarantee. I can't guarantee much. Okay, when it's on, I can try, but I cannot guarantee what they want. Okay. Thank you. Many Singaporeans will be very happy to hear that. Just use your energy. I can try, but I can't guarantee much. Okay, but we will see how. So we're going to read into the ghost who is apparently bothering Venice-san, and apparently that say it's hard. The moon. Huh. The moon card. And the Knight of what? Huh. And the Four of what? Okay. You want me to do a full detailed reading? But you need to be very cautious of the reading, okay, when it's on, because it's not saying that they want you to steal the moon. It's actually more on when it comes to, in this case, right, the moon itself, always most of the time when it comes to tarot card reading, it can mean something bad. Okay? It can mean something bad, but most of the time it's not really like indicating the bad is towards you, okay? It's actually more on that it is something that you need to be cautious of. So in this case, it's actually more, because it actually, the moon itself, when it comes to tarot card reading, it can actually mean, it can be related to ghosts, as you mentioned. So it's actually more on the reading itself. I need to do a full detail reading, which is a 7-card reading. And normally you guys know I don't like to do detailed reading because it is one of the hardest one, but it's just more on, it is kind of like something that I need to be very cautious when doing the reading. And these 2 cards, it's already kind of like calling out already. This card. Oh, thank you very much for the chill. It still got 2 more cards. And the final cut. Hi, hello there. Right now, I don't really like to do ghost reading, but oh well. Since when it's on your ask, I will just take a look. It's the 7th reading. In case anyone want to know, it's actually more on that it is a full detailed reading, and the top 7 card is actually more on what is hiding by the ghost, or the ghost may be trying to convey to you, which I had no idea. But Page of what? Upside down. the Page of Sword upright, the Tower card upside down, Eight of Wands upright, Ten of Wands upside down, the Emperor's card upside down, Nine of Pentacles upright, closing all, Four of Pentacles upright. It's a bit confusing, but it's kind of like there is some. Okay, this one is actually more like the goal is trying to warn you that is something that is that is gonna hit you, that you may get that you may not be aware of. But the goal is trying to tell you to be very cautious of the thing that is going to happen to you, and that you should not let it affect you in a bad way. Because the thing is, right, within the card, okay, so within the card itself, number one card, you have the Page of Wands, which is technically the ghost, which is kind of like trying to tell you that is something that is happening, they're trying to lead to you. And then you have the Page of Swords, which is you. And the one thing is, right, you're holding the sword, reason being that you're unhappy about it, even when the girl is trying to warn you of the situation. So this is actually so for your situation is that the girl is trying to warn you of a disaster that is going to happen, which is the Tower card. Now the second thing is that the goal is just trying to warn you is because the Eight of Wands is actually more on that you should be not saying like you need to attack the problem. It's actually more that you need to be careful of the problem, that of the disaster that is coming towards you. And that is the reason why the Eight of Wands is kind of like the attacking card. In this case, is to not say that you must be attacking the disaster. It's actually more like you need to be cautious of the disaster, because the thing is, right, the Ten of Wands, most of the time when I say the stress card, it's actually more in this case that you aren't aware of it, the disaster that may be coming towards you, and that you need to be very, very cautious of. Now, the reason why I say it may end up being a big problem is that the Emperor's card, it can be you in a case that you will be leading yourself toward a disaster, or it may lead you to a problem, which is the reason why the last card, the Nine of Pentacles. Because the thing is, right, if you are able to go down a good direction, you can have no problem. But the only issue on hand is that if you can't really be aware of it, it may come as a problem towards you, and you need to be very, very cautious of the problem that may be coming and hit you in a way that you may not like it. So you need to be cautious of the issue, especially more on the Emperor's card itself can also mean that is something that may hurting you in a way that you may not like it. So in a way, the whole scenario, you have no idea which is not wrong with. The reason why that the Ten of Wands upside down is indicating you're unaware of it, and I can't really say what is it, but it's actually more on that you need to be cautious of the problem that may be coming to affect you in the wrong way. But the only issue on hand is that if you are able to stand strong and able to encounter, like not like saying that hey, it's going to be whatsoever along the line, then it should be fine, because the Nine of Pentacles is indicating safety as well. outright it is safety. So the one thing is, right, the card is indicating that you need to stay safe, you need to be very cautious. I can't really say what's the problem because the indication is the ghosts don't wish to say that. But the one thing is, right, the Four of Pendulum, that's kind of like the closing for all of the whole scenario, is that it may not be what you may like, because it's actually it may be related to things that is in regards to even relationship or study, all these things. It can be anything, but you need to be cautious that it's linked to you, and that you need to be cautious of the scenario that will be hitting you in a way that you may not like it at all. And Gunjin-san, hello there, how's the day? So the one thing is, right, for Venison, you need to be cautious that the ghost is just trying to warn you. It may be bothering you, and you just need to tell the ghost that thank you for your warning. I will need to take care of my health or whatever, and I do not know what's the problem, but I will be mentally prepared, I will physically prepare, and then just live your life. And I think the ghost will kind of like understand that too. So that's the reason why Venison, hi, hello there, sorry. So the one thing is, right, when it comes to the reason why I say it's a bit confusing is because the goat is just trying to warn you, but you also need to be cautious because the goat is just trying to tell you that you need to be prepared. And the issue I don't know what is the problem, but the thing is the goat is warning you and it is not telling me. So the only issue on here is that it is a disaster because the Tower card itself appeared. So you need to be cautious of that. What is the problem that may be affecting you? But you also need to tell the girls that thanks for warning, but also need to tell the girls that you need to prepare, and but you wish not to get bothered by the girls in a way. And I think that should be good enough though. So that being said, you search your birthday card and you got Lover and Demon card. The Devil card is okay. The Lover card is actually when it comes to reading, just to indicate, okay, it's actually more easier if I showcase the card itself, so that it will be much easier to explanation. So when it comes to the Lover card as well as the Devil card, is actually more on that. In my reading, I always don't really say that one is a good card, one is a bad card. The funny thing is, right, depending on the situation, even the Devil card itself can be a good card as well. It's actually more on how do you look at it. So the one thing is, right, it's actually more on depending on how you guys look at the card itself, and not saying that it's bad or whatever. It's actually more on that you need to be cautious of the card that may be hit, that may be trying to tell you in a way. And the Diva card, I was wondering where was it. Where's the Lover card? The Lover card. It's actually best not to use the birthday for the reading in a way, but I will explain that later on. And the reason for that end, right, is that what you guys need to understand is that the Diva card and the Lover card, in a way, if you guys actually notice one thing, the two of them have one thing in common, and that is the both of them are linked with a guy and a girl at the same time. And this is one of the things, is that the one thing a lot of people need to understand is that, right, the Lover card and the Demon card, when it comes to tarot card reading, it is the light and the dark at the same time, just being these two cards alone. The one thing is, right, a lot of people need to understand is that that's the reason why the Lover card itself, if you guys notice, it's an angel with a sun behind, which is the light, and the Demon card is just basically just full of darkness. And that is one of the things, is that I do not know what is that song, but one thing is that what I can definitely say about these two cards is that normally when you have indication that these two cards is together, it can be linked on that there is something that is going to happen between light and the dark at the same time, which is basically the moral good or the moral evil at the same time. And moreover is that if you actually have two of the card at the same time, if anyone have these two cards at the same time, there is such cases. I can definitely tell you is that you guys need to understand. In this case, I would definitely say is that there is a light and a dark that is in your path right now, and that if another card that actually link these two cards out together at the same time, which is, it has to be this specific card, okay? Actually, more like two of them, but one and two. So the one thing is, right, what a lot of people need to understand is that when the demon card and the lover card is linked, and anyone in the case of drawing either one of these two cards, it's actually more on that it can link to your decision done in real life, especially more so if, let's say for example, if in the case that you have the demon card and the lover card with the linkage of the two of sword, then this one you guys have to be very cautious, is that it actually indicating that you got two choice, a yes or no or whatsoever. You got two choice. One choice will lead to the light, and one choice will lead you to the darkness. And in the case of the two of cup always tend to mean water itself, which basically mean that the situation that you're doing, it may be linked to the light or it can be linked to the darkness. And most however is that the lover card itself and the demon card itself, it actually mean of that it depending on what scenario that you will be linking to either one of them, because this is the reason why the tool itself will indicate of such thing, and it will be linking on the decision you make. There may be other card that they can link any of the card here can link to these two out, but when this specific two card get drawn out at the same time to indicate like either one of them, like it can be this case or it can be this case, if any of these situations do happen, it can be meaning, for example, like the two of swords, you'll be, if I do a reading and I seen these two cards and I got this one card to indicating on what is the decision, you'll be linking that you'll be making a decision that will be linking you in the right path or the wrong path. Or in the case of this thing, it can be linking that a road that you are going, it can lead to either one of them, and you need to be cautious of the road you are walking down. So the one thing is, right, it's often more than not, these two cards itself, in most cases, a lot of people need to understand, is that because the two of them have one thing in common, which is the human down here, not because that the lover card is just because I indicating, oh, it's the power of light. It's actually more so that a lot of people need to understand the lover card itself, when next to the demon card, they are common card. One is the angel and one is the demon, and yet it depending on how are you gonna link, if are you gonna have a light or are you gonna have a darkness. So one of the things is that these two cards itself, a lot of people need to understand when it comes to this kind of reading. I do want people need to be cautious that because the card art is similar, you guys can see it's very, very similar, but it's also indicating that in the case of these two cards being placed up together, it will be something serious, and that it can be something bad or it can be something good depending on the choice you make. Now that being said, it's really kind of like something that a lot of people need to understand, that it can be in many situations that can link the two cards out at the same time, and it can even like the magician card that can indicating of such things such as the thing that you are going to make, it will lead you to either the light or the dark, or even in the case such as the Ace of Pentacles, which means that the thing you do will be indicating of there is light and there is dark. So one of the things a lot of people need to understand when it comes to tarot card reading is one of the things is when it comes to that two cards together at the same time, which hardly happen, it will always tend to mean a kind of like there will be a light and there is the dark, and you guys need to be very, very careful when that do happen, because it will link in a case where you can go down in a very, very good future, or it will lead you down into a disaster future that you won't even have a proper future. So that one thing is, again, you need to be very cautious when that two cards do draw out, and it is one of the rarest moments to have those two cards at the same time. Now, another thing, the reason why I don't prefer to use birthday to do the reading itself is actually more on that it will be linking to your the three things that I always tend to do is the past, the present, and the future. But one of the things is that you guys have to understand is that you need to when it comes to the situation, the scenario, is that it will also link to a future that is kind of based on the date itself, and it won't be linked only to you. It can also mean that it will be happening on many scenarios, and that it cannot, and when I do the reading, I can't be just having you in front of me with your birthday, and you have to understand the reading may end up not what you like, because the thing is, right, the future that I say may telling you that you must go this path or you must go that path, and you need to understand that it may not be the path that you may like, and you need to understand. That's the reason why I don't prefer to do birthday reading. When I can do it, I prefer not to, and I do prefer not to in the case. Now, in regard is that if anyone also want to ask about can I use tarot card to do a curse, I would definitely say that if you want to do it, make sure to go and get a card, do the reading yourself, curse it using your own card and not my card, and then you have to burn the card at once the curse do hit though. So the one thing is, right, a lot of people need to understand is that the tarot card itself, even though I'm doing the reading, I'm actually using the energy of the nature, and in this case I'm using the full moon to do the reading, and I prefer not to use any curse. Actually, more towards that, anyone who know me very well is that sometimes when you get the curse and hit you, the one thing is, right, you need to understand the curse will not just only hit your enemy, but it will also hit you at the same time. So you guys need to be very, very careful if you doing a tarot card to do the reading. If it's do a reading, it will be fine. But when the curse do step in, it will be very, very bad, because it will affect not just the person, but it will also affect you at the same time. So if possible, try not to do so. Now, lead down to your forgotten past. Nah, I can't do that anymore though. You already did one reading already. And I mentioned before, I can only do one reading per person each time if possible. Additional more reading, it may not be a very good one though. And also, I already did one the forgotten past on you, and the card I already mentioned it is something that you need to be. It is something that you may not like, but you already kind of like move on from it. So there's no point on you trying to remember your forgotten past though. So I think it's actually better that way. Huh. The Hermit upside down and the Four of War outright card. It's better not to think too much about it. Because if it's a good memory, keep that good memory. 4 outright is actually indicating in your case right now is a good memory, and it's better you keep it that way. The Hermit card itself right now is that it is indicating that you might want to keep it that way, because more so is that if you do end up trying to remember all these things, it may end up having you suffer from it. Especially a lot of people need to understand the Hermit card when it's upside down is actually more on alone, all these things, and you need to be cautious that even when it comes to a lot of scenario, the Hermit card can mean good thing, but most of the time it is, in this case, can be unreasonable situation that can happen. So you need to be cautious and keep it that if it's a good memory, keep it as a good memory. It may be also that if you end up suffering from it, it will not be a good one. And that was the card trying to warn you though. Because overall, it is a good happy moment, and don't think of it. I know you're gonna be happy about it, but one thing is that too much of the happiness, you may get sunburned, so you might want to be very cautious on that end. Okay? The sun telling you keep that good memory. Don't think too much of it, especially more on the Hermit card. It was trying to tell you that you might end up suffering from it. Yeah. Just remember the good things, not the bad things. I mean, like, even for me, most of the time I prefer not to do any bad reading if possible. When most of the time it's just bad, when there is bad reading, it's actually more on like, it's just kind of like a forewarning or things that you might want to be cautious of. And the Hermit card is do indicate that in most cases, when it's outright, it's actually more on that something bad is going to happen if you are not prepared, and the outside down is actually more on that you may end up suffering if you try to remember it in a bad way. So if it's something that it's actually more on that, it can also, as you mentioned, since you mentioned like it's a fairy, all these things, just keep that as a memory in a way that, and don't let it affect you in a way that you might want to say, oh, she is real, all these things, because it can be just your memory trying to your brain trying to affect you in a way, yourself just being affected by it along the line. So you might want to keep it that way and not let it affect you in a way that you might get it affecting you in a bad way though. So other than that, just keep it that way, and I think it should be all fine. Two of what card? Okay, I'm going to do one reading, and technically it is related to a topic that I will be. But yeah, but Pao-san, you want to do what kind of reading though? I can do that. Yeah, your cat is being naughty. My cat is also kind of like being weird at the same time, so I can't do too much on that. Yeah, Pao-san, you want to do a reading? What kind of reading you want? Or you need me to go into Discord to chat with you to understand what kind of reading you want in mind? Or you can just type in the comment and I just see. Even still a chicken. A general reading, anything the card want to tell you a good thing. Okay, let's see then. Let's see. We'll do a general reading for you, the 5-card reading. Is it possible? Okay. First card will be general, second card will be your study, third card will be your relationship, fourth card will be your health, fifth card will be things you need to be cautious of. I like these two cards together. Okay. And this card want to close everything up. Huh, interesting. Even though there is no last card to close it most of the time, but the Sun card upside down and the Ace of Pendulum. The Fool upside down. Okay. The Magician outright for your relation. Your health full of sword upside down. Things to take note, King of Cup upside down. Closing every single thing, the Knight of Cup outright. I won't say about dark magic because I will just keep quiet on that end. Parasan. Interestingly, I would definitely have to say is that your study and your relationship really have like good and bad. But at the same time, the one thing is that in this case, most of the time when you have the Sun upside down, it is not a bad reading. It's actually more on there is something good that is something, not really say heavy good thing, but it's actually more on that it's an indication that is something that is happening in a good way. So let me close every single thing out at the same time. The Sun, when you have the Sun upside down and the Ace of Pentacles upright, it's actually indicating that it will be, you have something gonna happen to you in a good way, and it will happen to you in a nice way. Which is the reason why if you got these two cards together, especially more towards like initially I thought was this kind of like this card was kind of like indicate, I thought initially this was like another card, but somehow the card was trying to tell me that it is linked at the same time. And in this case, it's actually more that you have something gonna happen in a nice way that will tell you that something good is gonna happen to you. Not a very big heavy good thing, because if it's outright Sun, it will mean that something big is gonna happen to you. But when it's upside down, it's actually more on that something small that is gonna happen to you that will come to tell you that it will be a good thing in a way. Now the thing is, right now you got the Fool card upside down for your study. Now that being said, the Fool card itself have a lot of things when upright and upside down. In this case, it's actually more on, I will have to at least highlight that you need to be very, very cautious on your study, okay? I know that study on your current major, even though it is not your initial choice, you need to work hard on it, and you need to make sure that you do not neglect the study in a way. Now that being said, it's not saying that you're gonna like not care about study. It's actually more that you need to be cautious, you need to take note of your study, and that it will lead you to a better future. So you need to be very, very careful on your study. Not saying that you even if the study is not easy, whatever, you still need, and you may have the stress, but you need to be very, very cautious on the study in a way that it will tell you onto a good future. Because if you throw in and start thinking about the future, thinking that hey, it is stress, all these things, if you study properly, not saying like it is in a bad way, it will lead you in a good way. This is the reason why you got the overall the sun card telling you so. So you may end up having like a bit of playing all these things and you don't think about study too much. You need to be very cautious. Just be careful on the study and it is fine. Now the one thing is that your relationship, you got the magician card. Now that being said, the magician card have most of the time when outright and downright can also mean good and bad. And in such cases, when it comes to relationship, the magician card itself can also mean pain or losses. But the one thing is, right, if I remember your reading back then, Parasan, is that if you study well, the magician card itself is also indicating that the lover or the person that is looking out for you are looking at you, a good person, a person who study well. And if that is such the case, you will have a girl coming towards you and have good impression of you, and that is when your love may start happening. But you also need to be very cautious that it may also be a pain, or it can be someone that it may be leading you in the wrong path. So you need to be very cautious of when that do happen. Now that being said, if you as earlier I mentioned, your full card is indicating on such end, so you need to be cautious on that when on your study. But at the same time, if you study well and you make sure of that, it will be in a good path. Now for your health, you got the Four of Swords upside down. I can understand that you may have stress, you may have issue, but overall you do not want to have that hitting you in a bad way, because the thing is, right, it may getting you end up being sick. In a way, you may get illness, you may get you may feel unwell, all these things. So stress, it is very, very hateful. It is something that we do not like, but you also need to understand that study all these things may end up affecting you in a way that you may not like, and then you need to be very cautious on your health. Now, things to take note: King of Cups upside down is actually indicating that most of the time, in a way, the flow for your life right now may be not in a way that you're expecting. It may be, because the king itself indicating is that if you notice is when it's the king is sitting on water, on the throne, on floating on top of water. So the one thing is, right, when it's upright, it's indicating that you understand what you're doing, but when it's upside down, you need to be cautious of the things that may not be end up going in the way that you may like. So you need to be cautious on when that actually do happen. So overall, it's just basically your whole scenario may not going according to the water flow, but you might want to be cautious of the scenario that may be hitting you, and that take a stress, all these things, and then just study well, and I think you should be fine. Now, earlier as you mentioned that the card itself looked like a death card. Now the one thing is, right, the Knight of Cups is actually you. You are the knight itself, and you're holding a cup that is your future. You are sitting on a horse that is leading towards the future. You are going in a way that it is affecting your future. So you need to be very careful on your health. You need to study well. Love life will happen to you when you are studying well and you have leave good impression to girls on your good study and your good mentality, and that is a future that you may have wanted in last time. So overall, your whole reading is not a bad reading, but you also need to be careful on your study, and also as well as your health and your stress. But other than that, your overall reading should be fine and not in a bad way. So overall, your reading, I will not say is bad, but it's actually more on a good term. But you also need to be very, very careful on your health from your study, all these things, and other than that, it should be all fine. Now, in regard is that using negative energy to destroy enemy life, most of the time in my case is that when I do reading using for most people and they don't accept it along the line, and when it do hit them in a bad way, that is also negative energy. Because the only issue on hand is that I don't like to use that when that happen. Okay, Siva-san, is that when the negative energy affect the enemy, it will also try to find another person, and most of the time it'll be the one who casts the negative energy. And in this case, for example, if I do end up cursing someone, the curse may end up hitting me at the same time. So the one thing is, right, just like how the earth is round, everything is in a circle, all these things, is that everything will come to a close. It will loop back, okay? So when you loop to the person, unless you can keep a curse on the person and you leap going a circle in that person, most of the time when you give the energy to the other person, it will come back and hit you because it is closing the circle in a way. So other than that, you need to be very careful on using negative energy. Personally for me, right, when I try not to use positive or negative energy. Even right now when I do the reading, right, I tend to use the nature, but at the same time I need to appreciate the nature of this thing. And in this case today is the full moon, so I tend to use the full moon energy. But the one thing a lot of people need to understand, even full moon itself can have negative energy, especially on some days. So I also need to tell you guys that even I myself have to be very, very cautious. But like even I myself kind of like hoping that it will be raining later on in Singapore, and hope for the rain to kind of like wash all the negative energy. Because the one thing a lot of people need to understand is that rain in my belief is kind of like also a cleaner in a way, which is to wash away the negative energy. But the one thing a lot of people need to understand, because it is washing negative energy, it can also wash away the positive energy. The rain itself, in my belief and my understanding, is that it can help to clean energy, but it can also mean that it can kind of like wash away every single thing. So most of the time a lot of people need to understand that when that do happen, it can be good and it can be bad. So most of the time people need to understand. No, I'm not a Japanese, although I lived in Japan for 6 years before. I have lived in Japan for 6 years before, so at least that's the most I can say. I mean, I already went to Japan to study manga and anime, but at the same time, it's actually more voice acting, all these things. But the one thing is, right, back then, I will just say it again, back then when I started out, I was technically mistaken as a Japanese streamer because I always tend to speak in Japanese, and I tend to just do Japanese stream. But later on, I kind of like, because due to an incident that related to a Japanese female VTuber that got me really like lose out on a lot of Japanese viewers, so I kind of like stopped streaming in Japanese though. But other than that, I do speak Japanese at time, depending on the day and scenario. So I tend to just kind of like speak English or Japanese depending on situation. A city, Singapore is Singapore, okay? If you do not know, you might want to Google search out Singapore, but it is not a city in, it is not part of China, it is not part of Mongolia. But if there is idiotic people who think of Singapore part of China, then China, those people who think of Singapore being part of China can go to hell. And I would say in Chinese, 他们要下去地狱的时候，请继续请下去吧，因为他们所做的一个罪孽，会让他们误解他们所认为的真实其实是假性。So the one thing is, right, a lot of people need to understand is that just because Singapore have a lot of Singaporean Chinese, a lot of Chinese race, we do not count ourselves as China people. We consider ourselves as Singaporean, and that is the final point. The one thing a lot of people need to understand is that for us Singaporean, right, we always call ourselves Singapore Chinese. We never call ourselves Chinese. We cannot call ourselves China Chinese. Even if my late grandfather, late grandmother all four of them from China, most of them from China or from over from my late grandma. She was from who was from Malaysia, but the one thing is that she always think of part of Chinese. But the one thing is that in later on, even I myself do not think of myself of part of China, even if my ancestor is from China. If anyone say that I just because my ancestor is from China, does that make me a China? The one thing is that I will not be part of China. I never been to China. I don't hate China. I speak Chinese as one of my mother language. But the one thing is that that does not make me a China person. Because the one thing is, right, just because I speak Chinese, does that make me a China person? So if that make me a China person, is China, the government, are they gonna give me the benefit they give to their own China people? They don't. The one that giving me the benefit is Singapore. That made me a Singapore Chinese. That do not make me a China Chinese. So the one thing is people go around, even within Singapore, one of my uncle is a very strong supporter of China. But the one thing is that even he knew that he is a Singaporean Chinese. That do not make him a China Chinese because he do not benefit from China. That's the one thing. So the one thing is that it is one of the things a lot of people need to understand is that within Singapore, a lot of Singaporeans do not like China, but that does not mean that we denying China as our ancestry. So the one thing is, right, a lot of people need to understand is that when there is people over the internet talking about China, part of Chinese or all these things, that will draw a very huge line. Because the thing is, right, a lot of time I have spoken to some of my China friends, and they themselves also knew that there is something in Chinese that we call ourselves Hua Ren, which basically mean that we are just a Chinese speaker. We do not mean that it's not, and we are just kind of like Chinese who are born overseas, not from China. So that's the reason why we always call ourselves Singapore Chinese. In Singapore, if you go and type, if you guys go and Google search Singapore Chinese, is it a strong word used by local Singaporean? Google will tell you the AI will tell you that it is. Because the thing is, right, a lot of people need to understand is that the reason why we always call ourselves Singaporean Chinese is not because that we hate China. It's more on the part that we don't like to be generalized with the China people, and more so on the part is that we in Singapore we have rotten apples, but we don't want to go and say that, oh, just because there is rotten apple doesn't mean that every Singaporean is bad. No, it's the same thing. It's just that when there is bad Chinese people, then obviously we just say that that specific person from China is bad. But the one thing is, right, this often more than not, if you guys know, even I myself live in Japan during that season, I've seen a lot of bad, rotten apple from China. But the one thing is that, do I go and scold that, hey, I hate every China? No, I have a few friends from China, and most of them are very nice. So the one thing is, right, I want you guys to also learn in a way is that don't ever hate people just because they are from a specific race. It's actually more on that there will always be rotten apple all over the world, be it in Singapore, be it even in Japan, or even in any other part of the country, and even in China. So the one thing is, right, most of the time, even I can say that even USA got so many rotten apple that they can't deny. Okay, it doesn't mean that, oh, is it the black or is it the white? No, there is always the bad, rotten, evil people in the whole world. It's just like, it kind of like you guys need to understand that regardless of how we think about it, don't let it affect you. Okay, so for me, to us, it's actually more that you guys have to understand one thing. The reason why I have to use a different country is that you guys have to understand one thing. Okay, when Singapore have a like Malaysia people, does that mean Singapore part of Malaysia? Just because Singapore got a lot of Chinese, does that make part of China? Just because there is some Japanese, does that make and Singapore was colonized by UK or Japan before, does that make us part of Japan, or does that make us part of UK? No, Singapore is just Singapore. if you guys don't know, is it part of a country, Google it up. Don't let it affect you. I wouldn't say that it's good or bad. It's actually more on you guys need to be very cautious when asking that question, because the one thing is, right, it may when you use a country such as China, it will not be a good way of a question, because consider that in Singapore, linking Singapore to be part of China is a huge taboo. It is a very, very huge taboo where people will either troll you, people will make fun of you, or people will scold you like an idiot, and then you'll be questioning why is it people in Singapore being so bad. Because if you guys think about it, right, if just because there is a lot of Muslim in the world, does that mean the whole Muslim from different country the same country? Obviously no. Malaysia is Malaysia, Indonesia is Indonesia. And if you guys think about like any part of Muslim in any other part of the world, does that mean because they are all Muslim, does that mean that they are part of Malaysia or part of Indonesia or part of Saudi Arabia or whatever other country that have Muslim along the line? No. Islam, Iraq, do they make them like, oh, because they are Muslim, does that mean then they are also, because Malaysia is also got a lot of Muslim, does that mean all of them are under the same country? No. So the one thing is, right, a lot of people need to understand is that the reason why when you do not know, look it up. Google is, like, I don't like to say this, but Google is a very good search engine to look it out. If you don't like Google, look out at any other search engine to see on where is Singapore. Is it an individual country, or is it a country that is part of another country along the line? In Singapore, we are independent, we are alone, a stand-alone nation. So don't let it, just because you are unaware and you start using another country. The one thing is that question is a huge taboo in Singapore. You may want to be cautious, okay? So it may sound offensive or not, it is actually more on, you say a taboo question, obviously you're gonna get scolded, okay? But I'm just warning you, and you need to be very careful on that end. And I think it's actually overall is still fine. So I'm not blaming you, but I need you to be very, very careful when that do happen though. Free reading, what kind of reading are you looking out for? Just because I got cat ears doesn't make me a furry, okay? It just so happened to be that I was a human that got a cat ears. Let's just stick with that. 猫耳がありますから、まあ、でももともとは人間だけど、今は猫幽霊かな。まあ、それはしょうがないな。Thank you. My hand is very, very big. Like, legit so damn huge that if I take out my phone, this is iPhone 13. The size, okay? The size of our iPhone. And my hand is this huge. You guys can see. It's just basically my hand is just a size of a phone. So the one thing is, you guys have to understand one thing is that if I slap a person, or it's really gonna be so damn hand, because I can slap the half, it's not half the face or whatever, it's their whole damn face, okay? Will you get the husband? So I'm gonna assume that you want to ask about your love life. He doesn't like me. I will just say one thing. I do not know who that person is. But if the person do not like me, by all means go ahead. I'm not stopping him. But to me, I've been using my avatar for like 5 years plus already, so I do not know who the person is. And if he want to wear a diaper on his head, then let him be. If he want, because the one thing is that he just full of shit on his head, because that's why he need a diaper on his head. That's all I can say. But other than that, okay, for your reading, since you asked about love life, I cannot say too much on that end, but I will see based on the reading, do I have to do a detailed reading or not? The Knight of Pendulum. Huh. A 4-card reading. Huh. This is one of the reading that I do not like, but okay. Normally I do 3 or 5, but a 4-card reading card. Because the one thing is, right, you have to understand one thing. The 4-card reading in this such case is actually more on overall. Number one is overall the whole scenario about your love life. Secondly, is it someone close, or will it be the guy is still not aware of your scenario? Number 2 card that is number 2 card. Number 3 card is that will it lead to a good future, and number 4 card is to close the whole loop out. So most of the time it's still 3 card, but with additional 1 more card in a way. But pendulum card more so is I need to be careful on the reading as well. So for Ame Gakita-san, will the person get a good love life? Okay, in your mind, you have to also think that you want to have a reading, that you want to look into to that future, and at the same time, don't think of it in a good way or in a bad way, even if it's a good reading or a bad reading. Okay, just think of it like it's just a reading, and it is something that you'll be looking forward to. Oh, there is some confusion in your reading card. Okay, that got through nicely. There is some sort of confusion, but it can be done. Because it is a future, so most of the time when it comes to future reading, I'm not very fond of it, but it can be done. Okay. In total, 5 cards. this one last card closing every single thing out. Oh, in total 7 cards, car. But before the last 2 cards, hi, hello there, how's your day? The chalet upside down, Six of Cups upright, the Page of Pendulum as well as the Star card, and the Hangman. Huh. Closing everything, Six of Pendulum as well as Eight of Wands. Both of them upside down. It is quite a complicated reading. There is 2 possibilities in my reading, but at the same time, I will just base on my understanding of the reading is that there is good thing and there is also bad things to indicate on the reading, which is the reason why there is 2 possibilities. But I will just say based on assuming that you are a lone person, all this and trying to ask in regards to whether you will get a husband. Now the one thing is, right, the chalet card most of the time is actually the moving card. It's kind of like indicating that you are wondering, like, will it be a is something that will it lead you to having a husband, all these things. The one thing is, right, there is already someone who is apparently into you, or there is already kind of like you are also think there is also a possibility of you thinking about someone else that I can't really say so much. Because the one thing is, right, when I asked about the second card, which is the Six of Cups, is actually indicating that hello there, how's the day? So the one thing is that the Six of Cups indicating that it is someone that is very, very close. Because in this case, it's actually more like the guy and you both know each other, and that you need to. There is a kind of like that. There is such a case. With the reason why the chalet card is actually more on that you don't really need to move. There is really someone new to you, and the one thing is, right, will it be leading you to the good future? Or is the guy actually aware of you along the line? You need to be cautious about, because you got the Star card as well as the upside down Page of Pendulum. Now the one thing is, right, most of the time the Page of Pendulum also Killer-chan, if you are teaching right now, go and continue on the teaching. Don't come to my live stream when you need to teach people, for goodness sake. So the one thing is, right, when it comes to the Page of Pendulum, right, in this case, upside down is actually can also mean there is good and there is bad, okay? Like, it can mean like luxury, all these things, but it can also mean bad news. But in this case, because you got the Star card itself, it's also kind of like indicating that you may lead to a good future, but you also need to be very, very careful for your relationship, because the moment you step into it and thinking that you happen all these things, you may end up not having the future that you've been hoping for. So you need to be cautious on that end. Now the last thing is the hangman. In this case, is actually not a lot of people need to understand is that the hangman upright, right, it's not really a bad card. It just means that you may the relationship is affecting you right now, that you may not like it at all. The moment you're thinking like, hey, can I get a boyfriend, can I get a husband, will I get a boyfriend, will I can get a relationship, all these things, yeah, the moment you start stressing over it, it is going to affect you, and it's not going to give you the future that you may like. Which is the reason why when you get this hangman, right, and you're asking about it, you really have someone near to you apparently based on the Six of Cups. But the one thing you need to be very careful is that the hangman itself is indicating that you are suffering from it even though you aren't looking deep enough, so you might want to be very, very cautious on that end. Now the one thing is that it's also the Six of Pentacles and the Eight of Wands is actually more on the part that you may be thinking of like spending money, or you're attacking the wrong guy for your attention. So you might want to be very, very careful on that end. And most ever is that when that do happen, you may end up not earning the relationship that you may want, and you need to be very, very cautious when that do happen. So it may give people the wrong impression, all these things. So overall, that is the first reading that I can come up that I can explain. But there is also another reading that I can not say for personal reason, but I definitely would say is that if you are thinking about relationship based on the reading, if you already have a guy that is near to you, then I think you might want to just be with the person and not think about this kind of situation. But overall, I don't think it's a bad thing though. You don't want a boyfriend under but other than that, for the readings, I would definitely say in the most simplified form, if you are looking for a husband or a boyfriend, it will have there is already someone close to you, you might want to be on the lookout for that. But you also need to be cautious in a way and not step too much on it and let it affect you in a bad way, and that should be the overall. At least that's how I look at it. Yeah, it is someone near to you apparently based on the reading, but you might want to be very cautious, because it may be someone that is really kind of like liking you but don't want to say it along the line, so you might want to look out for that. At least that's how I looking at it though. Now for Kira-chan, don't need to worry, it's not you, okay? It's another person. So Kira-chan, I mean, like, when it comes to relationship, I mean, like, you don't need to say like, no, him or whatever along the line. It's just because I do a reading on relationship. Like, the one thing is that I do a lot of relationship reading in my life already, but it's not a one time, two time already. I did a reading for Neji-san, I did a reading for Veni-san, and I did a reading for you one time already. I ain't gonna go and do a reading for you again. Okay, don't need to worry. Even when most of the time when I do the reading, it's very, very strong and very accurate. But there's also, I prefer not to step too much to it. I'll find it funny. Okay, Kira-chan. Imagine you say you are not into, you don't want to get a boyfriend, you don't want to be in a relationship. Imagine, I can't say the year, but imagine that you get into a relationship on that Pacific time, on the Pacific day, and then you out of nowhere tell me, Ame Papa, I really got a boyfriend, I'm gonna marry him. Oh, I'll be just happy for you. And then you can't deny, is it before 30 or after 30 anymore, because the one thing is that I know the Pacific age, but definitely I would just say that before 30. And then people keep asking me for the answer. The one thing is that, one of the things a lot of people understand that sometimes this is kind of like funny. Okay, this is kind of like a Chinese belief. Chinese God belief is that 天机不可泄露, which means that heavenly secret cannot be revealed. And often more than not, right, when it comes to reading, in a sense, I'm actually reading out based on the future. And in a way is that if I do the reading and say the answer, I may end up getting a punishment or a karma hitting me in the wrong way. So I prefer to kind of like give in a vague form, a warning, if it's a good one, at least telling you don't take it for granted. If it's a bad reading, you need to be cautious. At least that's always been the way to go. If I was the last person on Earth, then I will be wondering like, who am I going to observe though? Yeah, you guys have to understand one thing is that I always call myself the observer of this world. If there is no one to observe, then who am I going to observe myself? But other than that, I think I'll just probably the first thing, if I have to do one thing, I'll probably just be asking myself is like, what the hell happened to this world? Asking myself a simple question and then thinking of how am I going to survive for the rest of my life. Because in case anyone wondering, like, oh, maybe you should be going around and see whether there is any other people still around in this world. If if I know that I'm the last person in Earth and I don't see and I really knew about it, why the hell would I go and look for it though? Then why don't I just live my life and just until my death along the line and try to survive? But the only thing is that you guys understand that there won't be even if I'm a VTuber, I can't be having I can't do live stream because there's no one to watch. I can't play game because there is no update. I can't do this, I can't do that. There's so many things I can't do. Then I will be wondering how am I going to survive. Then I need to think of food. I need to think of things to entertain myself or whatever along the line. And the one thing is that you guys have to understand one thing, okay? If there is no electricity, how am I going to survive? No electricity, nothing to survive on. Then I have to live on fire and all these things, and I have to look for all these whatsoever just to survive all these things, and then will be a whole new different thing. So if possible, I prefer not to be the last person on Earth. So, those to us around. I mean, like in case anyone was kind of like wondering, I ain't gonna do deep reading too much in a sense, even though today is a full moon. But it's actually more on that. Earlier, I was thinking of like doing the reading for one scenario, but the card instantly tell me the answer. And the one thing is, the moon cut. Now the thing is, right, a lot of people need to understand is I was going to do a random chat about the so-called the blackwashing of the Teresa in Genshin Impact, and I was thinking of like, do I really want to be just the usual me, or do I want to just say it out loud? Now the one thing is, right, the moon card in a way is kind of like indicating that because today is also a full moon in a way, it's actually more on I can say it, but at the same time, be cautious of the way I say it and the way I speak all these things. And yet at the same time, if I draw the sun card or any other card, I would definitely say, okay, I will need to see how I think about it. But the moon card is actually more on that. A lot of people need to understand. Okay, if in such cases earlier, as I mentioned, the diva card and the lover card. Okay, but let's say for example, if the reason why I say the sun, let's say the star card, as well as the sun card. Now the one thing is, right, most of the time a lot of people need to understand when it comes to tarot card reading. Okay, if most of the time, if let's say for example the sun and the moon, a lot of people don't understand one thing is that if you have either one of these cards coming up both at the same time, like one of the reading come up both at the same time, the sun and the moon together at the same time next to each other, it can, and in most cases again, like the pair card or whatever card along the line, it can also mean that the moon card, the darkness, the sun card, the light. And when I say the moon card is the darkness, a lot of people need to understand is that if you guys actually look at the moon card itself, there is a scorpion here. Scorpion in most cases is actually disaster. And a disaster in the illustration of the moon is actually indicating that within the night there is disaster. Which is the reason why most of the time a lot of people need to understand when it comes to tarot card reading, right? In the past reading all the way to now, a lot of people need to understand the sun card is having the white horse is actually the card of hope. The moon card is the card of darkness. And when you have these two cards, the light and dark at the same time, often more than not, these two cards together, it mean that there is a light and the dark is happening. Now, a lot of people need to understand that that's the same thing for the star. A lot of people need to understand one thing is that the star is kind of like both cards at the same time. The card of darkness and the card of light. Because a lot of people need to understand that this one got a little bit of like scientific term already. But when it comes to astronomy, it's kind of like mean the same thing. So the one thing is a lot of people need to understand is that star can also mean their sun in or kind of like thing that is shining. And most of the time, the one thing that we all know very well is that sun is kind of like a star from a long view. Which is the reason why the star itself, when it's upright or upside down, in this case, the sun, when the star is upright, it can be good and bad. When it's upside down, it can be good and bad. And one of the reasons why this card is kind of like it's kind of like a hard to read scenario, because most of the time a lot of people would in most card readings say, oh, I got a star, it is the card of hope or it's the card of good luck. But a lot of people need to understand is that this girl pouring water into something, and a lot of people need to understand is that it can be a sabotage, a saboteur, or it can be that you are getting water or you're giving hope or this thing. But the reason why in this case the star can be a good, be it outright or be it upside down. It can be both and with the reason why the star itself can be the light and the dark at the same time. But when you have both, each of them standing next to each other, the sun and the moon, it is the card of light and the card of dark. But most of the time, if anyone in such cases where they have, where all three cards are up at the same time, upright or upside down, most of the time you guys have to be just outright thinking like, hey, maybe you need to go and be careful in your life, because most of the time it can mean that there is something major that is going to happen to you, that it can lead you to good or lead you too bad. And most of the time, I will not say what kind of future because depending on the what kind of reading you are going for. But when that do happen, it can be a very very bad. And it can be also be good. So it's kind of like hard for even for me to gauge on that end. But other than that, most of the time, that scenario don't really happen because you have to understand the chance of it happening is like 0.00000000001% of it happening. But when that do happen, all three cards happening at the same time, I think I will just joke with that, hey, maybe you guys should go and buy a lottery because this is the chance of it happening is really rare. But when that do happen, it's actually more on that it is not a good reading that you guys want to be very cautious of. And most of the time, even when I do draw all three at the same time, I try not to let it be affecting you. And most of the time is that you guys have to be very careful when two cards of the sun and the moon coming out at the same time, it's gonna be something bad. But if you got like the sun and the moon, or not the sun and the moon, the star and the moon, or the star and the sun, it's still kind of like another type of reading. So it's kind of like different. It's still alright. But when you have all three at the same time, that is one of the things you guys have to be very very cautious of. But other than that, hope that answers your question. In case anyone are wondering about it. And I will not think too much of it. If not, the card will scold me for it. Oh, okay, just to clarify, I don't think anymore on the reading, right? Just checking on it. Pilsung, you want a reading? Oh, just clarifying. Or you got a question that you want to ask? Your future. Okay. Welcome back, Benny-san. I have to do a proper understanding. Let me see. I need to do a full detail reading. Can't be the 3-card reading. Initially, I was thinking of like past, present, future. Let me see. 5-card reading. Nope. Seven-card reading. Not even 7-card. Detail reading. The circle. There is one last reading. Oh, welcome back. Oh, the Fool card. Okay. Listen, in your mind, think of 3 things. Your past, the current time, and how would your future be like? right now. Think about it. This was already calling me out really. Normally I don't like to do this kind of reading, but Fourth of what for your past? Five of Cup for your current present. And the Emperor's Cup upside down for your future. Okay. Eight of Swords upright, Ace of Pendulum upside down, Five of Pendulum upright, the Magician upside down, the Chalet upside down, Two of Cups upside down, Four of Cups upright, Seven of Wands upright, Queen of Pendulum upside down, Three of Pendulum upside down. guitar pick, you might want to use another substitute like some sort of plastic, simple plastic bag, plastic that you can use it in the strands. For Pearson, you don't need to worry. Overall, your reading is kind of like not bad, but I also wouldn't say it's just because it's bad, not bad, doesn't mean that it's automatically good. It's actually more like, if I have to say in the most simple way, it's actually more on an average life for you. But not in a way that you might want to stress too much in a way, because the thing is, right, based on the 5 of Cups upside down, you're kind of like stressing over it in a way that it is affecting you not in a way that you like. And that is basically kind of like affecting, telling me that you do not want it to happen to you. But even if you wish for a good future, but the thing is, right, the Emperor's upside down, in most cases, when it comes to future, especially more like when it's the Emperor's upside down, most of the time I would say it's not really like bad, but it also kind of like meaning to say that it can also be a good thing. A lot of people need to understand when it comes to Emperor's Cup, when it's upside down, it's actually more on that it will not be a bad future for you. But it's actually more that you have a good future, but it's not like but you still need, it's not something that is gonna be like major big whatever, even if it's a major cut in this case. It's actually more on that it's more on that your future is something that you can be grateful for. It is a nice future that you can consider overall. Now the one thing is that the reason why all this below cut you need to be very, very careful as in a way, okay, is technically when you're young, based on the reading, it's actually more like you have suffered quite a lot, and you at the moment you're also kind of like thinking about the money, which is the reason why the Ace of Pentacles is upside down here really, and you're wondering like, will that affect you in the future, because you're wondering about it as you're stressing over the money. That is because you need you really consider an adult, you want the money, you're wondering like, will it be bringing you to that end. Now overall, it is not a bad reading, considering that you are thinking about the future, which is a good thing, and that is a right thing to think. But you want to be not stressing over it in a way that you might let it affect you, because more on the part that your future is a good future, don't let it affect you in a bad way. Now the Magician card, as I mentioned earlier, while upright and down, upside down can mean good and bad, in this case it's actually more like you stressing over it will not lead you to a good future, but if you can think of it in a good way, it will be leading you to a future in a nice way. So don't let it think of it in a negative way, and that's be fine. Now the one thing is, right, you the Chalet card upside down and the Two of Cups upside down, most of the time the Chalet card upside down is actually mean that you stop doing from your past to your current now, you have stopped thinking about the future and that you walk down the path already. It's not saying like it's bad, it's actually more like you are like the current card is also indicating that you are kind of like stressing over it, and I don't think that is the right way for you, and you might want to be very careful on that end. Now for the Seven of Swords as well as the Four of Cups, both of them outright, right, it's actually more on that this kind of like moment that you are living is actually affecting you in a way that you are stressing over it, and I think it's understandable. But you also Pearson, you also need to be very careful on not letting you affect, like most of the time in my live stream I always say moving on. It's actually more on that, don't let the past affect you. You may have a lot of things or people over the internet can say affect you and hit you, or just because drama on the internet may affect you, all these things. You might want to be cautious of that topic or all the thing that is affecting or stressing you, and then move on. Because the one thing is that if you can, I mean, like basically the seven of what is meaning that you're attacking those people, but you also need to be very careful that if they are giving you the stress, then it will be more on that you might want to be very, very careful on that end. Now, for your last two cards, the Queen of Pentacles as well as the Three of Pentacles, both of them upside down, right? If you thinking about the stress, all these things, it understandable. Will it affect your finance, all these things? It will. But you also need to be very, very careful that because the one thing is like the Three of Pentacles is also mean in upside down, it's actually more like you'll be paid accordingly to the things you do. So the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles as well as the King of Pentacles, it means that the money will flow to you, but it is not in the future that you may be expecting like out of nowhere. It may happen, but you also need to be very careful when it do happen and not let it affect you or get to your head in a way that you may think that, oh, just because it happened, you'll be earning the money and free money, all these things. Because when that do happen, it will not be a good reading in a way. So overall, your reading is considered a very, very good average reading, and I think that's a good thing overall though for Pyo-san. So you need to think about not about the stress or the things you do or all these things. Just do how you feel, how you think, go according to how you do things, and then it will come back and benefit you in the future. But it's not in the future that we are expecting soon, but it will happen in a day that it will hit you with a very nice benefit, but it will not be like out of nowhere. So overall, I think your one is considered an average reading, but it is a good reading in my point of view though, so don't need to worry, Pyo-san. Overall, I will still rate it in a very good reading. For Lani-san, I think for your scenario, right? Yeah, I think you might want to see whether you make it yourself, and maybe use a blast stick and see whether you can cut and use that one to create it yourself, something along the line. I don't know. I mean, technically, those are uncheap. Those things aren't cheap though, but you can consider getting it if you have the money. But for me, I definitely, everything is expensive. True, everything alone. This one is moving expensively. Good luck on that, Kampate. For me, I also need to think of getting a side job myself. But at the moment, considering that this coming Wednesday is Genshin update as well, I have to consider that I'll be playing Genshin the whole damn day again. Like if you guys actually seen the schedule that I put out on Discord, on YouTube, on Twitter, yeah, I kind of have to tell you guys one thing is that definitely is in terms of the scheduling, all these things, right? It's actually more on the part on that I need to be very careful on this week, considering that initially I was thinking of maybe I did think of putting Monday and Saturday resting day, but today since it's full moon, might as well just do a little bit of reading. So and then Saturday, kind of want to do a bit more on the Seeds of Bowser if possible. So yeah, kind of there's so many things that I want to do a little bit, but if I don't stress about it and just do accordingly and not thinking of it as a job, to me VTubing is just having fun, and that should be the way to go, because I don't want to think of that you guys think that hey, I'm doing VTubing as a job along the line. Just maybe in future, if I get more viewers, then that would be a great thing to do. But for now, at least we will look into that. And hi, hello there, how's your day? But just in case anyone are wondering, I will not be showing my feet anymore. Maybe in future when I have when I have the mood, I will do a cycling, but that will be a whole different story. Aside hobby, in a way, the funny thing is, right? If the funny thing is, right, when I started as a streamer, I initially think of it as just having fun. Long before I became a VTuber. So the thing is, right, around 7 years back when I started as a Japanese streamer, I initially did think of like, hey, I just having fun, just playing game with my friend along the line, and I just think of it that way. And in a way, I didn't think about, hey, will I grow? Because the thing is, like, there was even days when like I don't think about, hey, so I get a viewer or people to some of my friends to watch it. I don't think of it that way. And then when I started as a VTuber, I kind of like just take it that, hey, I just interacting with Japanese people, and because I was living in Japan, I want to improve on my Japanese language. So I initially did think of like, hey, maybe I should try doing a live stream as a Japanese streamer and speak in Japanese to see whether can I communicate with the Japanese people. And often more than not, a lot of people end up having a lot of like misunderstanding, that thinking that I'm a Japanese person even though I'm not. And often more than not, that it's actually more on the voice tone that I speak on that actually got them actually liking me at the time, because I tend to speak in a very funny Yakuza way that they actually all like. So the only issue on hand is that using that speak actually kind of like reminds some of viewers on that tune, but it's actually kind of like just for the fun of it though. Will I pick between apple and orange? Okay, I do like orange and I do like apple, but if you guys want to know, I only prefer to drink orange juice more than eating orange. But if it like, and sometimes if you guys give me a apple and a orange, right? Okay, I will. If I have to eat the apple or if I have to eat either fruit, I would choose the apple more. But if you guys give me a juice like apple juice or orange juice, I will go for orange juice more. So when you tell me to pick either one of that, it really depends. If you are talking about the yeah, like as what people say, eat the apple, drink orange. I'm not really like saying like I don't prefer that kind. It's actually more on the part on that I tend to go for just eat apple and drink orange more. I do eat orange at time and I do drink apple juice at time, but in terms of like the reason why I do prefer to eat apple more, it's not really like apple they keep the doctor away. It's actually more like I prefer to just eat the apple because it's more better to bite on. Because for orange, right, I don't like in most cases the orange itself you have to split up the inside what you eat inside. Like in some cases people eat the orange, but for me I don't eat the orange inside because some of the time the plant is so hard to bite or swallow that I just kind of like don't eat the orange at all. Like especially more like the white part, the whatsoever, like I don't like to eat those, so I kind of like prefer to drink orange juice more, but I don't like to eat orange. I live in Japan before I eat orange a lot of times, so that's kind of like, if possible I would say that if possible I try not to eat orange. Now apple, I do there are cases of drinking apple juice at time, but I'm not saying like hating apple juice. It's actually more on that in terms of like when it comes to either both of them, right? I tend to like the orange juice more because of the flavor, the taste. But when it comes to apple juice, I don't hate it. It's just kind of like I prefer a little bit of like the taste, a little bit of sour taste from the orange juice that help with like after drinking it. Or like, and sometimes if you eat a meal and you kind of like want to make sure your stomach digests properly, I will just go for orange juice more. Apple juice don't really have that moment. If I want to apple, I'll just eat the apple is in a way. But often more than not, if both apple juice and orange juice mixed together, I will be fine with it. And if people serve me an apple and orange at the same time, if it's not the whole apple and the whole orange, I will just like kind of like a slice of apple and a slice of orange. I will just eat both at the same time. But other than that, it depends on scenario, and I don't really kind of like say that will I pick one of them. It's actually more on the scenario though. Okay. Other than that, I don't think any more reading it, right? I mean, like, as much as I want to do more reading, actually more on such cases like today, we won't be doing too much reading. I don't think there is anyone who out of nowhere will come in and ask me for a reading out of nowhere, but other than that, closing the reading for the day. But one thing I have to admit though, I'm not sure about you guys' side, but the weather has been very, very, very hot. That I'm kind of like hoping that it'll be raining later on. But on the other hand, I'm also kind of like hoping that that the weather will be kind of like cooling or nice or whatever along the line, because it's so damn hot right now though. It's just so damn hot that I don't want to think too much though. Although I can't really say too much on that, and it's kind of like I'm not. Let's see if I can just add the still image instead. I'm too lazy to do the moving avatar. Okay. Where's the still image though? You know what? Let's use this. This is a very, very long created for me avatar. And I've not seen this for who knows how long when already. I still remember the last time when I have a female avatar. I wonder why. This one I haven't used for who knows how long when already though. I think maybe Sun and Kira-chan definitely remember it, but I haven't used this for who knows how long when. Stop spamming that word. I'm no longer a mama, okay? The last time when I used this was because you guys were calling me Ame Mama. Like for newer viewers, you guys may not be aware, including Pilsa. Like you guys may not be aware is that back then the reason why I say that when I say that when I was called Ame, before I was called Ame Papa, I was called Ame Mama. Yeah, this was the avatar that I have to use back then though. But this was like the avatar that I have to use back then. But maybe in future, if I have a girlfriend, then this will be the avatar that she'll be using. If she doesn't have an avatar and she wants to use an avatar, I will definitely say that hey, you can use this one instead. Man, my sister, if my sister want to stream, I have to create a new one for her, dude. Because the thing is, right, she will definitely not use the blue hair. She will be thinking of another color. So that one would be a wholly different situation. But anyway, the funny thing is, right, I know this is a bit of Genshin topic in a way. Have you guys seen the lead they showcase about Genshin that is gonna happen on 2 days later? Where they showcase Sandrone and Calubina hugging each other. It is huge, you know. When I saw it, I was like, wow, damn. I guess I'm being spoiled, but I was like, if that is true, at the time when I saw that, right, I was like, I want to make sure that I reach to that point and see it up close again. Because the one thing is, right, getting spoiled is one thing, but it will also kind of like close the scenario that is actually being linking inside Fontes for ever since then though. If you guys actually okay, for person you may not be aware because this one happened long before. The one thing is, right, long before when I do a lot of prediction in Genshin, especially when it's mainly stuck due to Sumeru and most of the thing I say end up being true. The funny thing was that I was actually very pissed off when they jumped to Fontaine, and I was pissed off at the number of things that happened in Sumeru haven't have a proper closure. They did not close it back then. So in No Cry, when they showcase the closure, like person, you have to understand when they showcase the closure, all these things, I was very very happy, and I was like, say, hey, they already closed this, they closed that. We have to fight against the Total Raid, the evil Total Raid, and close, make him gone all these things. The one thing is, right, it was kind of like a good closure for Sumeru because a lot of things they never closed out in Sumeru was closed out in No Cry, which was like the good ending in my point of view. The same thing that for Montes as well was that because that the Volca, like last time I was joking about like, hey, we got an old man, we got old man. In the end, we still don't really have an actual old man. Initially, I thought it would be a beard old man, okay, a white hair beard old man. And now Volca is still one of my favorite characters even till now. The one thing is, right, Volca in a way is technically still an old man, so I will still keep that. Will stick with that. So the one thing is, right, at the time I was like, okay, Montes don't have a closure because we do not know where he is. Maybe he's maybe we will see him in Scenaria. But the one thing is, right, we see him in No Cry, and then in the end, the ending for Montes was also the closure of bringing all the journey for them back to Montes. So they are all technically on the story in No Cry was bringing every Montes back to in No Cry back to Montage, and that was a closure for Montage. Now the one thing is, right, in Liye is also another kind of closure in a sense. It's because of Zebai was released, and at the very least, I do not know whether in next year how are they going to release another more, because the thing is, right, when it comes to New Year, every New Year is kind of like a new story, a closure, because each year they always kind of like, but the thing is, like, Liye still got every year, New Year, Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, whichever you guys want to call it, is that if there is a proper closure on that end, so I think it's actually more on that. If we can expect more onto the year story on that moment, I think we will be expecting a huge one next year. Now for so at least for Liye, we can definitely expect more on the Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, whichever you guys call it. Now for Sumaru, as I mentioned, it was kind of like a very proper closure, considering like every of them actually link back up, all of them have a good, nice moment, sitting down together, enjoying, having fun, all these things, and I think that was a group closure for Sumaru. The World Tree kind of like was unexpected in a way where she Nahida decided to destroy the World Tree, which was kind of like the so-called make the world link in a sense, all these things. So it's kind of like I was not expecting it. Now the another thing I was totally kind of like hoping for Fontes in a sense is that initially I did talk about like is Alucino gonna be linked to it, but consider that Sanjori is from Fontes. She is a creation by one of the four person in a sense, right? So in a way is that having that closure in for Fontes, right, we also kind of like a huge part that it will be considered a closure within the world quest in Fontes, because that was also one of the thing that was not closed at all. So the one thing is, right, for when I saw the trade the leak, the spoiler, all these things, I was hoping that that will be a moment where we'll see a closure on Fontes as well. So at the very least, I'm hoping to see that at the very least, when that do happen, it'll be a very considered, in my point of view, a proper closure for Fontes in my point of view. Because guys need to understand, Nalan have a closure already. Sumaru have a closure already. Fontes have a closure. The other three nations, not really proper closure. Like Liye definitely can't say at this point of time, but so far each year they have a good closure in a sense. So we definitely next year we'll look at what kind of update they're gonna throw us with Liye. Then for Fontes, probably tomorrow on Wednesday we'll see how the closure will be like. Now for Cinderella, that one we'll definitely need to see how they're going to close it on that end, because that will be a whole new nation that will be visiting for the whole end of the year all the way to next year. Now for another part a lot of people need to understand is that Inazuma. The one thing I find it very funny is that Inazuma was really kind of like the only nation that many people hate back then. To me, I actually like it, because there was like a lot of people need to understand is that back in Inazuma there was a lot of heavenly principle, all these things, the nation, all these things that was in that country, and Reagan Shogun, all these things, where she take out scenario where a lot of people kind of like feel angry and sad, all these things. So the funny thing is, right, it was kind of like a closure for some part, but there's also kind of like there is still a few things within that nation that is still unanswered for. And I really hope that initially, like in No Cry, where it's closing for many other part of the places, right, I was hoping that Inazuma will get to see a closure for many part of that. And I mean, like technically they did showcase Reagan Shogun's story that closed some part of the story already, but for the one thing is, right, for Inazuma there is many part of the place, such as like Kokomi, where is she really a part dragon, part all these things, was Inazuma really like a nation that was like the hydro dragon along the line, or was the Thunderbird really in that nation as well. So considering that there is a lot of things that is in that is still not having a proper closure in the in terms of like the law thing outside. I mean, like there is a lot of closure, but there is also a lot of unanswered closure as well. So that is not yet to be closed, sorry. So it's really kind of like made me really curious about how will be that like, and kind of like made me really curious about how is Genshin gonna close that in a sense. And in case Pyro-san is not aware, that was when I was once called Ame, before I was known as Ame Papa, and I was known as Ame Mama. And at the time, I've Neti-san drawn this for me. It's because if you guys want to understand one thing is that it was kind of like a punishment for me, okay, that I have to use a female avatar. So the one thing is that was a punishment back then that I used this in a way where I kind of like I have to stick with it, and I was really called Ame Mama for during that period before a Japanese viewer asked them why are they calling me a mama and not a papa, because I was a guy. So the Ame Papa was kind of like stemmed from that end. But before that, I was kind of like as Kilacha, you guys can definitely see like even Kilacha, he's really called mama really. So the one thing is, right, but then they when they keep calling me Ame Mama, it's really kind of like I have to use a female avatar, and this one really did call me. like she draw this for me, so I kind of have to use it for a while. And we aren't jumping back 4 years back, okay. Do I really have to use the female voice again? I'm not sure whether I can do it or not though. Yes, I know. Don't need to worry too much, Kanacha. It really happened so long ago. Surely people wouldn't even think about this kind of voice. The people will be wondering, will I be having people wondering that am I trying to have a weird voice? But the one thing is, oh my, Vanny, why are you not taking care of yourself? Don't make me go and slap you in the head. Oh my, let me take a look at your finger now, for goodness sake. What have you been doing, for goodness sake? No me no. You want to drink milk? It should be in the fridge. Go and get yourself to drink. Unless you want me to pour for you. You don't have a pig? Then why not you go and create it yourself? For goodness sake. Okay, I'm not gonna do it anymore. But yeah, for Parasite and Pizza, I think you guys will definitely know that was how I used to do my live stream back then. Can I please go? Enough of you too, Vanicula. What are the two of you trying to make it that way? Why not drag me back to that era again? It's a bit long past in the past. Not something that I want to think about. Dude, I'm not gonna use this anymore for now then. If you I'm not gonna use it anymore because you cannot. The both of you are making me remember that situation again. Don't you dare cry, Kura-chan. Don't think about it. Hi. There's your mute. Akira-chan, that's your mute. You knew that is your mute. You're scared of boy, but you need to think that you will have to end up falling for one of the boys, not the boys that you're afraid of. But most like there will be one guy that will come to you, that will love you and take care of you with the love of his life, that will take care of you for his, that will love him with your love for your life, and you will think about it in the way that people do. Okay, I'm not gonna use that voice anymore. Sure, go and drink. You guys can drink the milk. Bray want to play game. Let him play game. Boys will always. Most of the boys will play games. You can't deny that. I mean, like you also play games. You also can't deny that, right, Benny-san? Then maybe you should consider playing game with me. At the same time, for Porosan and Pilsan, I think you can definitely have an understanding of how I do my live stream back then already. It was kind of like in that sense. You should call the others. Who's the others that you are referring to? Just in case, I at least want to have a verification. Very cool, thank you. But that was how I do my live stream back in the days. Hi, hello there, how's it going? Just to clarify, although I may be using a female avatar, it was kind of like a very, very old avatar I used, but I'm 100% male, okay? So you guys don't need to think too much about it. I might have to end up using my avatar, my real actual avatar. If possible, I'll try not to. I'm too tired, for goodness sake. The one thing I like the funny thing is, right, it was kind of like a funny joke back then was that but then the AI for some reason, like when we were like when I started as a VTuber and AI was kind of like still new going, like the funny thing was that if you guys go and Google search right now and type who is Ame Gakita, the AI will definitely say who am I right now. But back then there was a funny thing was that AI will always indicate me as a female. And because of that, Kina-chan and the others, they will always joke that, hey, I'm a female, so I should be calling me Ame Mama along that line. So I end up really have to use the avatar you guys seen on the screen, where I have to really do that kind of like, I am just using a female avatar regardless how I like it or not. But on the other hand, it became a moment of like, I have to do all this stupid thing, all the weird voices, not in the way that you guys might be thinking, but really not in the way that you might be wondering. Yeah, just let your son study, because I will be making sure she is studying very, very good. If not, I will be scolding her for not studying at all. Yeah, he's gonna hurt my voice, for goodness sake. For goodness sake, why am I doing this again? I haven't used this for who knows how long when already though. Yes, what is it? Kira-chan, you need something? You need more milk? Here's your milk. Hola.
dozo. You need a bigger meal instead? A very, very big meal instead? Something along the line? This big? Oh, take your time to drink. Don't need to worry.
I wonder why. But I definitely won't be using this for who know how long when again. You know, people will be wondering like, why the hell am I using this? Go and drink, what can I say? Even before I said I'll be drinking a little bit of milk myself. You know, I'll be wondering, what the hell am I even doing at this point of time? You want to buy a Tesla, but you also need to make sure that you want to stay healthy, strong, and healthy, right? If not, I will be making sure you'll be drinking more milk so that you can have a better body where you can tell your people that, hey, you want to like me, then you must think of I'm a sassy lady where people will like, and then you have to give me money, and when you give me money, then I will consider you as a love option along the line. Actually, don't take that advice. Please don't take that advice, okay, Clutch? And for whoever thinking about it, don't think about it. Even I myself prefer not to have that happening. Even during my live stream, I don't go and say that, hey, you guys will give me money along the line. I prefer you guys to keep the money for yourself and use the money when you guys need it. Because one thing is, right, what I need right now, in a sense, right, is technically once I'm able to gain the ad revenue in future, that is when I will be making sure YouTube be giving me money instead, not you guys, okay? So don't think too much, okay? Yeah, Kira-chan, you have to understand one thing. My mind is already hitting the same moment where my mind is on auto mode already, okay? When I'm tired, and yet why do I sound so energetic, or why do I can think all of your buy stuff? You guys know it very well. For Kira-chan and the others, you guys know it. You guys seeing it up close. Can you borrow money? How am I gonna give? I can go and buy the candy for you. For gonna say, how am I gonna buy give the candy? For gonna say now. Oh, how to do? What to do? Oh, my little child, you need a candy. Yeah, I think I need to end the stream right now and then go and sleep though. If not I'll be if not I'll be continue. If not, it will be back to the same old days where I tend to not end the stream and I just go onto automatically mode where I say all the stupid things or say the ridiculous stuff, and then the stream never ends, and then I'll be scolded the next day by my own parents. Why am I not asleep? Yeah, now I'm really curious, why was I calling myself Ame at this point of time? But anyway, I want to be doing the since Kira-chan is might as well to do it. Anyway, the usual old way of doing signing out. Yeah, really should go and sleep or I'll be having a headache later on. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I will need to go and sleep. So thanks for watching. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a nice day or night. Otsukare. Bye bye. And just for Kira-chan, good night. Sweet dream. Good night.